going to show you how to make the lemon curd and blueberry pavlova. This pavlova is incredible. The combination of lemon curd and blueberries and a little bit of mint is just a beautiful, delicious, incredible flavour combination, and it's one of my favourite pavlovas. And contrary to common belief, pavlovas are actually quite easy to make, but there are a few key tips and tricks. So I'll walk you through these so that your pavlova comes out looking stunning. So start by separating your eggs so that you've got the egg whites in a really large bowl and the egg yolks in a smaller bowl. And make sure that your big bowl is really nice and clean and it's dry. Egg whites are quite sensitive, so if there's any other foreign material in there, it makes it a lot harder to whip them up. It's also important that your eggs are at room temperature, not cold straight from the fridge. If they're at room temperature, they'll whip up much easier. If you do happen to get a little bit of egg yolk or a little bit of shell in there, don't worry, don't freak out, you can still save it. What I do is I get half of the cracked eggshell instead of using a spoon, and you can just kind of gently scoop the egg yolk or the shell out. I don't know why, but the eggshell just seems to work better than using a spoon. So now we need to whip the egg whites until soft peaks form. Now you need to have an electric beater or a cake beater to do this. You won't be able to do it with a hand beater, it just won't work. You won't get a pavlova at the end of the day. So if you don't have an electric beater, you'll need to go knock on your neighbour's door and borrow their one. Keep whipping the egg whites until soft peaks form, and you just want to move the beater around the bowl so that you get all of the egg whites whipped up. And you can see that the mixture, it's all fluffed up, and when you go like that with the beater, peaks kind of form but then they flop over a little bit. So that's what it means by soft peaks. So now we're ready to add the caster sugar, and make sure it is caster sugar as opposed to normal white sugar, because caster sugar is much finer, so it will be much more easily dissolved in the egg whites. Add in the caster sugar bit by bit. You don't want to put all of the sugar in all at once. So let's get back to beating this. And then you can slowly add or rein in the rest of the caster sugar bit by bit as you mix and whip up the egg whites. So once you've added all of the sugar, you want to beat it on high speed for 10 minutes. Now don't skimp on this, make sure it is 10 minutes, because that will ensure that the meringue mixture is really thick and really glossy, and it should be stiff enough that you can actually hold the bowl on top of your head and it doesn't drop out onto you. Make sure that you keep moving the bowl around so that you get all of the egg white in there, and it's really handy if you can have a spatula nearby so that you can scrape the sides of the bowl to make sure that all of the egg white is being whipped evenly and consistently. Yum! Perfect, so the meringue mixture is looking really thick and glossy, and the final test to make sure that it's all ready is the mixture should be really stiff, and you can tell if it is if you can hold it on top of your head without it dropping on top of you. So yeah, this mixture is pretty thick. Make sure that you've followed the instructions really well and that you've beaten it for the whole 10 minutes so that the meringue is definitely ready. Next step, line a tray with baking paper and then get a plate, and you can just use a pencil to just do a few little marks, and that will help be your guideline for your pavlova mixture. Last step, we need a couple of teaspoons of cornflour and a teaspoon of vinegar added to the meringue mixture, and you just want to briefly beat these two things in. The mixture is really thick and very glossy and nice and stiff. Spoon it all into the center of the stencil that I drew. You don't have to get the meringue right out to the edges. The stencil's just there so that you don't go over the edge, so that you keep the meringue in a circle. So you can just roughly push it out almost to the edges of that stencil. Get a knife and you can just very gently smooth out the top of the pavlova. And you can also, if you like, do the sides. And it's important that the pavlova mixture is touching the base of the baking paper. You don't want any kind of air pockets underneath the pavlova. You want to try and do this part relatively quickly, so I guess within a few minutes, so that you can get the pavlova into the oven quickly and out of the humidity. So that looks pretty good. It's not 100% of a perfect circle, but that's fine. Don't stress out about it. When you put it into the oven, it's going to expand outwards and upwards anyway. So just like that, it's ready to go into the oven. So the pavlova's been left to cool down in the oven. It's best if you do that because it just helps it from collapsing too much. Now you're going to get some cracks in the pavlova. That's because the shell on the outside is so crispy and it's really marshmallowy on the inside. So that is completely expected and normal. Do not worry. Even the most perfect pav makers will get some cracks in their pavlovas. And I mean, the beauty of a pavlova is that it gets covered in whipped cream, so no one's ever going to see. Transfer the pavlova to a serving plate or your cake stand. Get a long sharp knife and just try and kind of carefully slide it off the baking paper. Cool, there we go. So we're ready to whip the cream. Add your vanilla. So whip the cream to nice soft peaks. Be careful not to over whip the cream. Yum. Now we're ready to assemble the pavlova. This is the fun part. Spoon the cream all over the pavlova and be generous here. It is Christmas after all. So smooth the cream very gently all over the top of the pavlova. Now for the lemon curd. To loosen the lemon curd so that you get a nice drizzling consistency, all you need to do is add some water to it. So probably about a tablespoon or two would be about right, but just keep adding enough water and mixing it around until you get the right drizzling consistency. Great, so that's about the right consistency. So all we have to do now is drizzle this lemon curd all over the pavlova. Yum! You've got creative license to drizzle it over the pavlova however you like. Some blueberries and sprinkle the blueberries all over the top. If you like, you can put a few mint leaves on for garnish. What an awesome way to end the My Food Bag Christmas feast. When you deliver this to the table, everyone's jaws are going to drop. From everyone at My Food Bag, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.